Hello humans of the internet, and welcome back to part 2 of my 1.17 analysis series. So if you missed part 1, then you can go check that out down in the description, but if you don't care about that, then basically we are just going to be covering every aspect of 1.17 that was shown off in the Minecraft Live presentation, sort of analyzing it, checking out some things you might have missed, some things that were hiding in the background. So part 1, we covered the lush caves and axolotls, and in this part we're going to be covering basically everything having to do with the new cave system. So I said in the previous episode that part 2 is going to be about the new caves and the deep dark caves, but I tried to put that together, but there was just way too much stuff in the deep dark for me to cover both of those in one video, so I'm splitting that up. So this part is just going to be about the caves, and the next part is going to be about the deep dark. So anyway, with that out of the way, let's get started on this analyzing. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the new stone types that we see in this presentation. So the two that I was able to pick up on are these two. I call them marble and limestone, although we don't really have official names for them. That's just kind of what I like to call them. So we only see these two blocks next to the geodes. The marble, I believe, is this white kind of smooth block, and the one I call limestone is this other one which looks a little rougher. It's off to the side. And the only place we see these in the presentation is actually next to these geodes, which is interesting because I wonder if is like this the only place you'll be able to find them, or will they generate other places in the world? So that'll be interesting. I really do hope that they generate other places though, because these look like nice building blocks. I also wonder if these will have polished versions like diorite, andesite, and granite do. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the new cave generation. So they mentioned that these glowing ores are just a presentation feature that they're using to sort of show off what the caves look like. This is not how it will look when the update actually releases. So when they talk about all these new cave generation things, they are showing them in this normal looking cave with, you know, just stone and andesite, granite, diorite, all the normal cave stuff. Which makes me wonder, is this a new type of cave biome that they're turning the old type of cave into just its own biome? Or is this just a sort of filler that will fill in between the real cave biomes? I'm kind of thinking at the moment that it will be its own cave biome because they do mention that any type of cave can generate in any fashion. So there are these big open caves, and there are the little spaghetti caves, and any type of cave can generate like that. So you can have a big open lush cave, or you might have a tight spaghetti limestone or dripstone cave. So I'm thinking that this will just be a new cave biome called maybe normal cave, but I'm sure Mojang will come up with a more interesting name than that. We also see grass at one point during this little cave exploration, and it doesn't look very lit up, so I don't think this is like a connection to the surface, so maybe just big patches of grass will generate underground now, which would be interesting. So the next thing we're going to be talking about is very controversial, which is the glow squid, the winner of this year's mob vote. And the reason we're talking about this in a section about caves is because after the glow squid won the mob vote, the devs who were talking mentioned that the glow squid would look pretty cool in the big open caves. So that makes me wonder if they are going to maybe add the glow squid in 1.17 and make it spawn inside of these big caves. This wasn't like announced as an official feature or anything, but they did mention it, so that's pretty interesting, I think. Anyway, next up we're moving into the dripstone caves, which is, you know, a cave full of dripstone. And dripstone is these things. They form in stalactites, which are the ones on the ceiling, and stalagmites, which are the ones on the ground. So they appear to act as a sort of gravity block, because when the player breaks one of these dripstone stalactites, the rest of the ones on the bottom fall as if they were gravity blocks before breaking on the ground. And considering that dripstone is shown to be sharp and causes damage to things that step on it, I believe that if you get some falling dripstone to land on you, then it'll probably deal you some damage. I get the feeling that we're also going to be able to farm dripstone. So in real life, when stalactites from the ceiling drip water down onto the cave floor, they actually form stalagmites growing from the floor because the water that drips down, sort of the calcium in it, solidifies and makes the stalagmites on the ground grow. So I believe that maybe we are going to see this feature in the game because the dripstone stalactites are shown to, you know, actually drip water. So maybe if you place a stalactite up above a stalagmite, the water dripping down will actually cause the stalagmite on the floor to grow, and then you can farm it. So the other thing we see in the dripstone cave is the dripstone block. So this is a big block that is sort of the same color as the dripstone, and it also appears to hang down from the ceiling and sort of support these giant stalactites hanging down. So as for what it's useful for, who knows, it might just be a new building block. or maybe it'll also have like polished variants and maybe brick variants, who knows. I also think that maybe you'll be able to use the dripstone that you farm with the stalactites and stalagmites in order to craft these blocks and use them for building. So the next thing we're going to be talking about is the amethyst geodes. So these little structures generate with a bunch of these geode blocks, and these blocks will actually generate the amethyst crystals around them. So they mention that to farm these, they want you to have to actually travel to this area, so you won't be able to move these geode blocks, you'll actually have to travel there to use them. So that makes me wonder though, are these just unbreakable like bedrock, or can you just not silk touch them like a mob spawner? I currently think that it's probably going to be a mob spawner sort of thing, because I don't think they would add just a bunch of unbreakable blocks right in the middle of a cave. So what exactly is this amethyst crystal useful for? The only thing we know at the minute is that it's useful for crafting the telescope, and the only thing we see the telescope do is, zoom in on stuff in the background. But I feel like the telescope will have some other functionality added later. It would be kind of a missed opportunity to not have a telescope do anything with the night sky, so currently I think that maybe you'll be able to do something where you look up at the night sky and use your telescope and you'll be able to see like planets or stars or something in the distance. I'm not sure if this will have any actual function outside of just, looking cool, but that'd be pretty neat if they did add that. So the last thing we're going to be talking about is copper. So the devs mention in the presentation that copper ore generates in veins, not just blobs. As for what this actually means though is kind of anyone's guess. At the current moment, I kind of think that this means that just blobs of copper will try to generate near each other instead of just spawning randomly in the world, but, who knows, maybe it'll be something more interesting than that. So what is copper useful for exactly? So the one thing that we do know at the moment is that it's useful for telescopes and lightning rods, which, we already talked about telescopes, and lightning rods are, pretty self-explanatory. They just attract lightning. There's not really much to analyze there. But the other thing you can do with them is craft them into blocks, and you can use them as building blocks with stairs and slabs, we see. So the problem with these is that they will actually decay over time and they'll start to turn green just like copper in real life. Now this might seem a little disappointing at first because, not everyone wants their builds to decay over time, but the devs have mentioned on Twitter that there will be a way to, actually stop them from decaying. So I wonder if this means that you will just be able to craft a new block called shiny copper that won't decay at all, or if there will be some way to sort of freeze a copper block in its current state, and you can have somewhat green copper blocks and really green copper blocks, and use all sorts of them in your builds and stuff. So the last thing with copper is that copper in real life is very useful for creating wires because it can be stretched very thin and carries a signal very well. So what I'm wondering is if copper will have anything to do with redstone when it finally gets added. So I think that maybe copper could be used to craft some sort of wire that carries a signal forever, as opposed to redstone, which just, carries it for a little bit. But as for what it'll actually do, who knows? Maybe it won't do anything at all, although I really feel like it would be kind of a missed opportunity to introduce copper and not do anything redstone related with it. So that is just about everything there is to analyze concerning the caves and the stuff in them. So I hope you all enjoyed watching. Next time we're probably going to be talking about the Deep Dark, but considering what happened this time, who knows? It's kind of a toss-up what we're going to be talking about. I'm not very good at predicting things. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. Tune in next time, and see you later. Bye.